So I was just at the Toronto Film Festival last week. I'm going to be reviewing more films from there, but this is actually another one that was just out at the Toronto Film Festival at the midnight screening of this particular film. And I was actually at the afternoon sort of Midnight Madness version of it, in a sense where this was the last screening of The Substance, but it was in the afternoon and it was programmed as the Midnight Madness section. So yeah. But yeah, so I'm going to be reviewing The Substance, which stars Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. And it's directed by Coraline, who did the last film, Revenge, which was a French action kind of horror movie. It wasn't like particularly a horror movie, but it was more of like a survival movie. But she's really good with playing around with feminine instincts and survival. And this kind of like transfers into The Substance, which is about a woman who is an aging actress, and she's at her lowest point, and she's at a point where she needs to figure out what to do next with her career. So instead of just like retiring and just moving on forward away from the industry, the Hollywood industry, she decides to take this drug called The Substance, which is given to her after a car crash happens early in the beginning of the film. This guy just gives her the hard drive of a video clip showing what The Substance does and what it does to other people who take the drug. And once that happens and she finally realizes like, oh shit, I need to like take this drug and like become younger, she does it, but like she has to face the consequences of her actions. And honestly, the third chapter of this film kind of turns into an episode of Smiling Friends. I will not explain why and how, because I don't want to be like David Lynch, where somebody would ask a question about, oh, what's the meaning of this film? No.
Believe it or not, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film.
Mm-hmm. Why we'll elaborate on that?
No, I won't. No one sees it.
And you can probably tell what happens once this character takes the substance. Eventually, there's horrific side effects that happen once you take the drug. You have to take it 7 days, and after the past 7 days, you have to transfer yourself back to the older self or the person that initially took the drug. And her younger self becomes more and more like free and away from the older self, and the older self eventually becomes deranged. And that's just like the basis of The Substance. I don't want to spoil the rest of this movie, but man, like this movie is just balls to the wall, just fucking crazy, man. And it plays a lot with body horror tropes, but in a more satirical and campy way of it. And let me just start by saying that like Demi Moore's acting in this film is just all over the top, but in a really good way. And she gives one of the best performances of the year, hands down. And it's unfortunate that she'll probably be blanked for the Oscars or just pretty much any other awards, probably except for the Indie Spirits or Critics' Choice. But here she delivers like a very versatile performance where she's screaming, running, and just like barfing blood and vomit and piss. And meanwhile, Margaret Qualley she's kind of doing the same, but like also she's rejuvenated by her femininity, and she starts to like show her own body in really crazy ways. And again, like Coraline, the director, she plays around with the idea of like body positivity and how it can be commodified by capitalism. And it's played out with a satirical edge and a campy edge where it's completely just like over the top. There's a lot of characters, particularly men, who are playing like comical selves of themselves. Bleh. That's a word salad. But no, seriously, like these men, they're like completely over the top. They're very just like misogynistic, and the entire film is just basically a satirical takedown of misogyny. And yeah, like again, like this film, it doesn't have a lot of, was it not death, but it has a lot of, I'm trying to find like the right word for this, but I think the film, it's on the nose with its themes, but it's played up for laughs. But also, again, there's moments where you really feel for the characters, especially Elizabeth, Demi Moore, who at first she takes the drug and then she becomes young, and the younger self, Sue, played by Margaret Qualley, is just like out and about doing her own thing. She gets the job as the personal trainer on the television. She gets really successful. Meanwhile, Elizabeth is just like sitting in her like apartment, walling and eating like enormous amounts of food. And then eventually, once like the 7 days like starts to end and she goes back to her old self, Sue goes back to her old self, Elizabeth becomes even more deranged and just like insane, and she gets very like jealous of Sue's provision and just like her own being. And then eventually the film collapses into a fight between Elizabeth and Sue. But yeah, again, don't want to spoil where it goes, but again, where it goes completely balls to the wall. It turns into like The Fly meets like Death Becomes Her, and just the film just goes completely apeshit, and I loved every single minute of it. And this is one of these films that like I totally understand people's criticisms towards like the idea of this like theme of like body positivity and like how it's like very not like clear and cut, but it's just very like one note and straightforward and doesn't like go too deep into it. But I don't really care. Like, this movie was just a fucking blast, and it's one of easily one of the best like horror films that you'll see this year, hands down. Like, no other studio film that you'll see this year in the horror space will have the balls to do what The Substance does, and that's why I gave it like 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 on Letterboxd, because like it's ambitious, it's crazy, it's fucking loud. The sound design, the production design, the makeup are all like top notch. And even if this movie doesn't get nominated for Best Picture, I think like the technical like aspects of this film should be awarded, and just like Demi Moore's performance also as well. But that's like, you know, the last thing that should happen. But in a perfect world, I think Demi Moore could get an Oscar nomination for this. But yeah, that's why I really enjoy The Substance, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you've seen The Substance, let me know in the comments. You know, pull up on my Letterboxd account. You know, you can just like comment from there. But yeah, I'm gonna continue more of like the TIFF reviews from here and on out. I don't know which one I'm gonna do next, but it'll probably be either Saturday Night or Baby Girl, because I think those two films need to be like talked about. And yeah, that's basically it. Peace out.